Well, I have to ask about Fedor. What can you say about him? He had some legendary fights. He beat Crow Cop, Big Nog, Mark Coleman.
Yeah, and Kevin Randleman. And then he had those legendary fights with the Japanese fighters who were big stars over there. Man, I loved it. Honestly, he inspired me just by the fact that he was from Russia and he was a Sambo fighter. He was closer to our school of training, Sambo, combat Sambo. And there was this moment back in 2004, the Dagestan Combat Sambo Championship. Can you imagine? 2004, the Dagestan Combat Sambo Championship. And Fedor showed up. He showed up.
He came
to compete in the Dagestan Open Combat Sambo Championship while being the reigning Pride champion. I was 15 years old at the time. I was right there in the venue. My father actually invited him. He was sending out invitations to different schools back then. It was Stary Oskol, where he used to train. Fedor's coaches were sent an invitation. He came with his brother Alexander. They both made it to the finals back then. I just remember $5,000, $3,000, $1,000. First, second, third place. At heavyweight, they gave a car. When the two brothers arrived, they beat everyone to get to the finals. They didn't fight each other. One of them took first place. That was Fedor. Alexander took second place. I remember back then, when he was warming up, I was standing next to him while he warmed up. It was this building, a venue that fits maybe 1,500 people. And over there was this partition, like a wall. And everyone was warming up behind that wall. At that time, practically very few people even knew who Fedor was. But I knew Fedor. I knew who he was, that he was the Pride champion. At that time, he beat Nogueira, beat Mark Coleman, beat Randleman. This was before his championship fight against Crow Cop. I would come over and just sit there, watching how he warmed up, what he did. I just remember very well. I don't know, maybe Fedor will see this podcast. He had a thermos. And he was just drinking tea. And I remember he fought Ibrahim Magomedov. He was also a legendary fighter of ours, a heavyweight who fought in Pride too. He fought against him. It was either his first or second fight, and he was warming up incredibly well. I remember how he was warming up his nose and his ears. I watched him, and it was unusual for me at that time. I never warmed up my nose and ears. I just remember how Fedor was really working on his nose, his ears, his whole face. And he went, fought, came back. This was in Makhachkala, 2004. It's the same as a UFC champion now coming and fighting at the Dagestan Combat Sambo Championship. Can you imagine that? Back then, it was the best heavyweight organization in the world. He comes there and fights. So he finished the fight, goes back, and he had this big thermos with him. His team was sitting separately over there. He was drinking tea. He just fought, walked back, poured some tea, and drank it. He had something to snack on with it, maybe honey or something, I just don't remember. And I was, wow, Fedor is right here. For me, that was just such a, great source of motivation back then. It's really hard to put those emotions into words. By the way, maybe you could ask him about that on the podcast.
About the thermos?
No, about the tea. What was in it? Thyme, mint? What did he put in there?
I would love to talk to him on this podcast, but I think he rarely does interviews.
I think you can reach him. I can help you.
Well, if you could put in a good word for me.
Yeah, of course. I think it would be interesting for people to hear him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But psychologically, he's kind of like you in a way.
You mean calm? Yeah.
Yes, that calmness. You see the Pride era, those huge fights, those really tough matchups, and still he always stayed calm.
It's his aura.
Yeah.
I don't know about others, but for me, that was his aura. The fact that he'd come out with such a calm, cool-headed look and knock out giants, strong fighters at that time, right?
Yeah.
We used to joke about his face that he kind of looks like a kindergarten teacher, And then he goes out there and knocks out absolute giants. And he was like that. Both before and after the fight, he never showed much emotion. But I think we're a little different in that regard. I think Fedor, by temperament, is calmer than I am. That's my impression. But with that cold-blooded calmness of his, I think he got to a lot of people mentally.
It's like something's happening inside both of you, like something's boiling inside. So when we look at your face,
Of course, it's boiling. What do you think? You know what? It's one thing when it's boiling inside and you show it, but there are some who can't hide their feelings. But it's a different thing when it's boiling inside and on the surface you stay cold, cold-blooded, calm, and you can handle all these different emotions that hit you at the same time. There are a lot of them, and they all hit differently. When you compete, what makes a fighter, an athlete at the highest level, so unique is that so many different emotions hit you at the same time. Fear, nerves, the fact that people are watching you, the thought that you might perform badly, that you might not show what you've trained for, that you might mess it up, that you might, I don't know, fall. So much enters your head, and you can put each emotion where it belongs. So, if all of that gets inside your head and turns into chaos, you won't be able to handle it emotionally, but you stay cold-blooded. And you know that if you don't handle these emotions that are coming at you, if you don't handle this pressure, then it will be difficult for you to compete, because the main competition is against yourself first. You fight yourself, you beat yourself, and only then do you actually start competing with your opponent. So, I think it happens to everyone, not just him or me. The big difference here is how much you can control it.
Fedor himself famously said, "The only person who can defeat me is me. The only person who can beat me is me."
He was talking about that fight with yourself, I'm sure. Because if you lose to yourself, then you'll lose to your opponent very easily.